Hello, and welcome to Burning Issues, the only program that provides you a glimpse inside the Wichita Fire Department. I'm Captain Stuart Bevis. In this episode, we'll talk about responding to severe weather emergencies and the special techniques and equipment used in these critical incidents. We are no strangers to severe weather, but recent events in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma drive home the potential danger of these incidents. In the span of 11 days, 2 EF5 tornadoes hit the Oklahoma City area. The deadly tornado that hit Oklahoma City on May 31, 2013 grew from 1 mile wide to 2.6 miles wide in the span of 30 seconds, with wind speeds approximately 295 miles per hour. When responding to the aftermath of these acts of nature, emergency crews must act swiftly to preserve life. These actions require specialized knowledge and tools, which are the stock and trade of the technical rescue team. I would like to welcome Captain Brent Holman and firefighter Travis Diffenbaugh to the Burning Issue program. Brent has been with the WFD for 20 years and has been assigned to the technical rescue team for about 16 years. Travis has been with the department for 12 years, and 10 of those years he's been with technical rescue. Guys, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, I want to talk a little bit about training and other aspects of your guys' job. All firefighters need a lot of training to do their jobs correctly, but what additional skills are needed for technical rescue work?
Well, besides the firefighting duties of fire suppression and EMT, we specialize in several other disciplines, from scuba, high-angle rescue, confined space, swift water, structural collapse. That's just a few of them. We get to do a little bit of everything else.
So when you're training for these jobs, you have to go beyond pulling hose and even basic knots. What are some of the specific things that you do as training from day in, day out, Travis?
We practice with ropes every day. We do a lot of water stuff, so we have tons of equipment that we have to go through every day and check it all out, and cutting tools and different stuff like that. So every day we're having to do some extra training because we have a lot of tools to train with.
I like to say that we got the best toys on the job. Yeah, and we're getting new equipment. It seems like every week we get some new piece of equipment that we have to become proficient with. So.
And that's an excellent point, because it's not just like you have something that sits in the toolbox. You have to be able to use it in a moment's notice in
Absolutely.
a proper way, in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take for a firefighter to become a member of the technical rescue team?
Well, it's changed a little bit. It used to be they want seasoned guys to apply for it. It used to be, I believe, 4 years on the job before you could apply to be on rescue. And they've relaxed that just a little bit, just because there's a need for guys. So now I think what they're looking at is, once a firefighter becomes a pump operator, usually about a year or two on the job. Once they've completed their probationary period, they can apply to be on rescue.
And we do have some guys that have shown interest in it, and we take applications based on the need. When we start losing people, then we'll take applications. But in the meantime, if there's some guys that show interest in it, and they will come and do the training, and then they'll do the extra training with us, which allows us to kind of monitor them to see if they're, what we're going to need.
When you mentioned you come to the training, I know you guys do training every day at your station, but isn't there special times that you do specific training, like once a week or something like that, like Fridays? Or
Our designated training day is usually on Thursdays. Thursday afternoon, we'll get together with all the rescue team members on our shift and take care of whatever needs we feel like we need to work on that day. And once we get through all the disciplines that we're required to be proficient at, it's about time to start over.
So it goes in a big rotation.
Yeah.
And on top of using our local facilities, like I know we have a confined space area at our regional training center, but I know that in some instances you actually go to other places to do your training. I think it was last week you actually participated in a drill that was training and also actual response up in Salina.
Yeah, at Crisis City. It was a simulated tornado strike. They've got an excellent training facility up there, and we were able to get together with other task force team members. In Wichita, we're part of what we call Task Force 5, and it's a urban search and rescue, a USAR team that is made up. Task Force 5 is South Central Kansas Regional. It's made up of rescue team members from different departments: Wichita, Sedgwick County, Newton, Hutch, Winfield, Great Bend, and Bobby Wolf from Arc City just joined us too. I think they're going to do the medical side of it.
Great.
So
actually, during that exercise, you were actually simulating responding to a tornado, the aftermath of a tornado.
Yep.
Okay. Well, with all these different jobs that you have to be proficient in, obviously you have tools and equipment that are unique to your station. What are some of the things? You don't just have a normal fire engine, do you? You have more equipment.
We do have a normal engine, an engine and a squad, but then we've got a one-of-a-kind truck. Our Rescue 4, Heavy Rescue 4 is it's kind of a rolling Home Depot, so to speak. And we've got the collapse trailer that's, again, full of nothing but breaching and breaking tools and anything we're going to need to deal on an emergency with. Besides having a couple of boats, a jet ski, all the scuba equipment, we brought a couple of things today that we'll show you about here in a bit.
Okay. So Brent mentioned the collapse trailer. What are some of the things you have in that other than just stuff to break things?
We do have stuff to break things and to lift heavy objects. If a building collapses or if somebody's house collapses, they might be trapped under a big slab. And then we have some of this stuff right here, like this search camera, and we can actually look down in voids. And if somebody's down in a basement and a piece of concrete's down there, we can look before we go down there, and we have tools that we can either cut through the concrete or we can pick the concrete up. Or if a wall is collapsed or partially collapsed, we have different equipment that we can shore up that wall and keep it stable while we get the patient out.
So there's things like lumber and struts and things like that you can put in to support equipment while you're working to make it safe. And
we become construction workers pretty quick. Yeah. Just to stabilize the structure, shore it up to make it safe for us to be able to go in and get somebody out.
And if we need more wood, we have numbers we can call and get a lumber drop because we have a minimal amount of wood on the truck because there's so many extra tools.
Yes. And I know from practical experience, not just dealing with tornadoes, when we have a significant fire and maybe we have a structure that's a little questionable before we can go in and do some things after the fire's put out, then we'll call on technical rescue to take a look at it and see if we should really be operating underneath there.
I think we've shored some things up for you when you were investigating a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, just to want to stay safe.
Sure, sure.
So you pointed out we have this camera up here, and that's just something that you can search into concealed spaces to look and see if there's any movement or activity.
Absolutely, and that's what, because this is so small, it's got a little camera on the end of it, we can get it right down in a little space, and that does help, like you say, for collapses. And if there's a tornado, we also have the thermal imaging camera, which is like night vision. And we're able to use this because a lot of times in a tornado, people can get thrown. So if you come upon a scene, it's usually at night, you're looking for victims everywhere, even out in fields and things like that. So this comes in real handy. You can scan out in the field, and if there's a body out there, the heat signature will let you know if somebody's there. So this comes in real handy also.
That's a great point. The other thing is that when people picture firefighters, they picture the big bulky bunker gear, big helmets, sometimes the old leatherhead helmets and things. How does your guys' gear differ when you're having to do this kind of work in tornadoes or concealed space?
A lot of times we'll have our structural gear with us anyway, but we need to be a little bit more low profile, have a little bit more dexterity. We won't use our traditional fire helmets. We've got these confined space helmets, so to speak, a little bit like a miner, with the light on the front, goggles, stuff like that. And if you watch the news, anytime there's a structural collapse or like in the tornadoes that hit Oklahoma, you saw the guys on the pile, and if you saw the guys wearing the white helmets, those are the task force guys. And they'll wear more regular clothing with like elbow pads, knee pads, specialized boots that allow us to crawl through the rubble a little bit, have a little bit more dexterity and be able to get through it.
Makes a lot of sense. You can't be going through a big old bulky
Right.
fire coat and get through small spaces.
Right.
And we also have a backpack that we've recently got, and you've got your medical equipment in there, and you've got a storage for water, Because if we get out there, we might be out there several hours. You get to like when we went to Greensburg, there was nothing there. And so you're going to have to be self-sufficient when you get there. So we have the extra pack for the water and things like that. So if we have anything that happens, we can take care of ourselves while we're there.
Well, and Travis, you actually hit a point that I was about to move to, is that search and rescue after a tornado is something that we want to train for, we want to be prepared for, especially in our area. But not only have you guys trained for it, you've actually been involved in that, and you just mentioned that in Greensburg. What all did you guys end up doing when you responded to Greensburg? You both were there, right?
Yeah, we got the call that same evening, probably about an hour after the tornado hit, and we were on the road pretty quick. When we got there, they assigned us to search a hospital. They were concerned that there were patients, people trapped in the hospital. So we went directly to that scene and found out that most of the people had got underground, and they came out that we didn't find anybody in the hospital. They'd all self-rescued. So we did a little bit of searching then, and then they decided with the danger that was present, they put us all in staging until the sun came up, and we waited till morning, and then we went to do our house-to-house searches.
Okay. So when you're talking about searching a hospital, I'm not sure how big the Greensburg Hospital was, but how many people did you utilize? How many were in your crew to try to do that, take care of that job?
We'll take several guys with us, but we'll get linked up with different rescue teams, and we'll break us up into squads, usually like 6-man teams.
And I think when we respond, we were on standby for Moore, Oklahoma. We were, our governor apparently called down there, and we were on standby, maybe going to go there, and we were going to send approximately 10 guys.
10 guys
so
there,
that's kind of what I think our response is going to be if we can. Initial response, 10 guys, and then we try to stay together if we can.
So when you're doing that, you're doing a search. Are there some special techniques that you utilize? You talked about doing the house searches, door-to-door house searches. How do you go about that?
Well, first of all, they need to set up a perimeter, find out where the entire damage scope is at. And then once they set up that perimeter, we'll, with the help of a lot of other folks, everybody's going to be overwhelmed at this point, but we'll set up a treatment, triage, and transport area. So any of the walking wounded, anybody that's self-rescued, we can direct them to a marshaling area, and then we can get in there and try to get any of the critical patients out.
What they try to do also is we set up a grid, and your command center sets up a grid, and they say, okay, Task Force Team 1, you're going to search this area, and we'll go over there to that area, and each house we'll go to, we'll put a marking system on there, and if we're able to search the whole house, then we'll mark that we've searched it, there's nobody in there. If there's any special hazards, we'll put it there, but it's all going to be on a wall somewhere right on the house. That way they'll come through and everybody will know, okay, that house has been searched and it was searched by Task Force Team 1. That way you don't duplicate your efforts, because there's a lot to be done in a situation like that.
You can see a lot of those markings on the news, and several of them, they're having to even search vehicles that got thrown, and you'll see an X on the vehicle to let them know that this car's been searched or this house has been searched.
So that's one of the signs, is the X, and then there'll be additional markings, like you said, Travis, if there's special hazards or concerns.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So how do you set priorities in a situation like this?
Critical patients are first, but we operate under that premise of we're going to do the most good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. It's going to be quick to get them out of there. And when we get on scene of something like that, it's mass chaos, but it's a little bit controlled from our end of it.
You also, on commands, on some of the simulations that we've been to, you have a command set up, and you'll have certain teams do certain functions. So we might come along, and we're the search team, and all we're going to do is we're going to search, and everybody that we find, we're going to relay that back to command. But we're going to keep on searching, because we have to keep moving, and then they'll bring another team in to get those people that are still either injured or trapped. But everybody has a function, just like on the fire ground. It's the same situation. You have to follow your task.
If we find a victim, a fatality, we won't remove that victim. We have portable GPS units, and we'll just mark it, and then we can relay the GPS coordinates to command and say, let them know we've got a fatality at this location, and then they can come back later. Now, when we were in Greensburg, it was a little bit tough to search because they gave us a map of the town. just a photocopy map of it. And we got assigned to the southwest quadrant of the city. Well, it had street names and stuff on the map, but when a tornado of that magnitude hits, the street signs are gone. So you're looking at the map and you're wondering, what intersection are we at? So we were having to actually paint the name of the street on the ground so we knew where we were at, so we could get our bearings.
You both made some great points during that, and part of it you talked about walking wounded and triage. And I know that from the fire service standpoint, we have a lot of reaction where we go, somebody's hurt, we need to help them. But you sort of have to fight that when you're doing your job, don't you? I mean, because walking wounded, you have a rule about what walking wounded are supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, if they're walking and they're wounded, they're kind of a low priority for us. We're going to try to get the most critical patients out.
And you have to know where the most critical patients are. That's why if you're the search team, then you have to do this. And you can't get off your task. I mean, now that's almost always. It just depends. If you came upon a certain situation, some of us probably couldn't pass it over no matter what. But you should follow your task.
Because I know in my experience, it's been that where people see and say, hey, why aren't you doing something? This person is bleeding. Well, that person's walking. I've told them where they need to go. They need to go get taken care of. Those people can take care of them. I have another task I need to aim for. Mm-hmm. And I know that's easy for us to say, and even when we know that, but it's hard for somebody to understand that. If they see that happen, it's like, well, they're supposed to help people.
Right.
It just goes off what Brent said, the greatest good for the most amount of people. Is the reason why we do that.
Is there anything the public can do in these kind of situations to help us?
They can be informed and be ready for a disaster to strike like that. I know having a kit themselves, having some water, when there's a tornado of that size that's coming through, they let them know, with the warnings and stuff like that, you've got to get underground. If you're not underground, you stand a really good chance of being killed in a deal like that. And when you are underground, have a jacket, have your shoes on. Most people don't think of that. You're in your house, walking around with your socks on, something like that. You've got to get your shoes on, because if your house gets demolished and you're able to now self-rescue and go outside, well, there's glass, there's nails, there's a million things that can get you. Sharp objects, splinters, anything like that. So having yourself a little bit protected. My kids are like, Dad's going to make us put our shoes on. We got to go to the basement. Sure, yeah. You need to be able to help yourself out a little bit.
Heed the warnings. That's the number one thing. Prepare first. And then if it does happen, if somebody's in a house and they're trapped, it's okay to tell us, but also try to understand we are trying to perform certain duties that we have to get done, and like you said, don't take it personal that we're not stopping. We'll guide you to where you need to go if that's our job to search, but if it's our job to help you, then we will. But some help is on the way. Just know that.
Well, and you made a point about the kits and the water, the shoes, but also people need to realize that if you have immediate medical needs, medications and things like that, you need to account for those in your kit as well. A diabetic without insulin, there may be some time, some of these tornadoes where you're not going to have some support for a while.
Right.
And that might be a good thing to be prepared for.
That's a good point.
So you've already sort of hit, was there any other advice that you would want to give our viewers for preparedness, for weather preparedness?
There's something that I'd heard the other day, and I'd never thought about it. You have important papers that you have scattered around your house, and if your house gets blown away, mortgage payments, bill payments, those things still need to be made. And somebody said that they had taken one of the little fire safes and put their important documents in those, and then keep those stored in the basement or wherever, because after a fire, all of it's gone. You don't know where it needs to go, and that kind of goes along with your medicine and things like that. That's important things that you're going to need after the fire.
Those are the kind of things, yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Those are the kind of things that need to be underground with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a safe, with guns or whatever in it, get that to the basement as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that hit me during our discussion here is that you mentioned the hospital at Greensburg, that one of the big things was they were underground.
Yeah.
They got underground. A big building like City Hall, you think, nothing's going to hurt this. Yeah, well, a tornado can do a lot of massive damage, but if you're underground, you're going to have the best protection.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to thank Brent and Travis again for talking with us today about technical rescue and tornado emergencies. That concludes this episode of Burning Issues. Our mission is to provide our community excellent proactive fire and life safety services through prevention, education, and protection. Remember, Wichita firefighters are highly trained professionals who are your friends and neighbors. They are Wichita's bravest, and they are somewhere serving you every day.